Hey guys, it's Matthias, and in this video I'd like to show you a base that I recently built. And I built this base, well, mainly to try out some of the new features. This watchtower, I built 2 of them, and of course also I used the foundation expansions to make the foundation bigger. And I'll actually run outside of the base here to show you what it looks like from underneath. And also this might give you a better idea of how much bigger the base actually becomes in terms of just the area. I also want to let you know that some of the footage in this video is actually recorded on the graphic settings set to Ultra, since all this video is about is to just show what the base looks like. And what I did was I attached 1 deck foundation on each side, making it 4 in total, and it adds quite a lot of space to your base, but also quite a bit of security, but I'll go back to security later on in the video. Needless to say, however, having double gates here at the entrance, it really does add to the safety of the base. And what I wanted to do here was that I basically copied one of my original base building ideas, and the fundamental part of the idea is that the first large shelter is sticking out of the base, and then you build an upper large shelter on the side, on the part of the large shelter that is already outside of the deck foundation. And this works just the same now with the foundation expansions. And one of the good things about this base design is that especially if you are uncertain of exactly how you want it, is that it gives you a lot of options even after you put up the main building blocks, which are the large shelters. Now the large shelters and the upper level large shelters, they give you a lot of space inside for, you know, the stuff that you want to store, all the loot and the crafting materials and such. But most of it is actually outside of your deck foundation, so you still have a lot of room inside for whatever you want to add later on. As you can see, there are some walls missing here, and I couldn't place a wall there. I think it's because of the upper level large shelter, but I decided not to bother with it on this particular base. Now here's one of the most recognizable new features of in the base building system. It's these lookout towers. So far I've decided to place 2 of them in this base, because it kind of fits to have one in the northeast corner and one in the southwest. Now my initial and spontaneous reaction to these watchtowers was that I think they look cool, they look great. I like the design and the functionality. It's a great addition to the base building system. I only wish they could be either taller, or that you had the option to place them on top of a shelter, or even an upper level large shelter. Because one of the things that I was a little bit disappointed with here is that they, even though they are watchtowers, they don't reach much higher than the actual placed upper level large shelter do. So because of that, in some regard, they kind of lose their point, even though they do look rather cool. Now there are quite a number of people that haven't really got into the base building yet, and to begin with, it is actually quite time consuming. But once you know what to do, and once you're in a group of people or a little bit of community, once everybody understands the basics of it, if there is 3 or more of you, unless somebody's idling and unless there is somebody who isn't really sure of what they're doing, then you can build a base like this in just a few hours. Now one of the most deciding factors to how fast you can build a base is your access to the important material, and basically it's all about metal. So now after building like somewhere between 50 and 100 bases, I categorize metal into 2 different categories. It is scrap metal, and then it's everything else. Now scrap metal can be used for everything, but the 2 things that you can only make from scrap metal that you need for base building is metal brackets and nails. So basically this is how we have started quite a number of bases. We find a garage like this, and we set up a furnace, a workbench, and in this case also a sleeping mat, so that we can rest while doing this, collecting scrap metal with a crowbar. Now, while doing this, you can of course also repair the crowbar with weapon repair kits, but once you wear one out and it becomes a broken metal item, you put that broken metal item in the furnace and it becomes a metal bar that later can be turned into a metal sheet. A metal sheet is something that you need a lot too, and a lot of people that build bases, they prefer to collect the sheets right away, preferably with a car. But in my case, I wanted to build the base directly after I created my character, and I wouldn't be able to find a car fast enough for that to save me any time. And then there's also, of course, the risk of losing the car to either other players, or you just flip it, and that way there is a bigger risk of losing the crafting material that you've spent some time gathering. And that risk is always there. You can never disregard it, well, unless you play on a PvE server, I guess. But the risk and the vulnerability you are exposed to while building a base and until it's finished is one of the reasons why it is so satisfying once it's done. Now keep in mind that while you're building the base, you're going to need to store some of the crafting material, and I've actually realized that for the material needed to build animal traps, they actually do store a surprising amount. And I'm using animal traps here because I'm thinking that maybe I'm going to tear down this shelter later on once the base is starting to get finished. And animal traps, they don't consume all that much metal the way that storage containers does. So if I decide that I need to destroy them, I don't lose as much. Now here is a strange loss of a metal door. I have no idea what actually happens here. Check this out. I am so confused right here. I had no idea what happened. I thought to myself that maybe I placed the metal door on some of the shelters further away. And the funny thing was, I was so confused by this that I actually decided to log in and see if maybe this is just a glitch and the door is there, because sometimes in the past the doors have been really glitchy. So anyway, I logged in and this happened. At first I didn't really see him there, and I'm actually quite nervous here because first and foremost I have quite a lot of loot on me that I don't really want to lose, and I'm also expecting this guy to be a cheater because I was like, yeah, there's no way he can get into the base unless he actually has, you know, a teleport hack or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying this guy is a cheater, I'm just saying what's going through my mind at this very moment. Of course, it's clear that he doesn't have an aimbot, but I'm suspecting that anytime now he can just appear right in front of me if I lose sight of him. That's why I switched to the shotgun.
Bli ett! Matte Ace, hallå? Matte Ace. Tjena brorsan! Hallå, pratar med mig?
Vad fan gör du här? Har du no-klippat in eller?
Nej.
Hur tog du dig in då?
Jag har bostad.
Grattis.
Nej, tackar. Hur fin bostad har? Är det ganska fin? Är inte du som gör typ YouTube-klipp eller vad det är?
Jo.
Är det? Hallå YouTube!
Ja, hej på dig.
Ja, hej då!
Varför är du här då? Du är här för att...
Nej, jag visste inte att det ens var din boss. Det är som är roligt.
Okej.
Den är ganska söndrig, din boss. Ganska lätt att ta sig in.
So basically all of this happened because I wanted to check what was wrong with that door. And obviously this guy had been able to boost in on the top of a car. And this whole thing happened when I was in the middle of editing this video and I saw that thing with the door and I wanted to double check so I didn't say the wrong thing here. And obviously because of the way he got in here, he is not alone. That's why I'm extra careful here. I did log out with whatever ammo I had been able to gather, which isn't all that much. It doesn't really matter if I lose it. But in the heat of the moment, I just act on instinct and I want to protect my loot. Just because that's basically what the game is about, in my opinion anyway. Loot is basically meta, and it's basically the only deciding factor to whether or not an engagement with other players is considered a win or a loss, in my opinion. So I stay inside one of the shelters here while I keep talking to this guy, trying to, you know, feel the moment, see what's up. But since a friend of this guy, Moth, that I just killed here, is talking to me on Steam, I now consider the situation resolved.
Mattis!
Hej, hallå!
Tjena.
Hör ni oss?
Yes.
Ja, Moff, fy fan.
Moff är
jag
vår
hatar han.
ärkefiende, Moff och Majora eller vad han heter. De har sitt camp där borta.
Jaha.
Jaha.
Ja, vadå, hur kommer ni in i ert camp?
And funny as it is, like, I can't believe this actually happened. Like, when I heard these guys start talking to me, I believed that they were Moff's friends. Instead, they are actually arch enemies with Moff and Majoran. And the guy that was talking to me on Steam, that was Majoran, which means the Major, by the way. And he is obviously a friend of Moff's. And now I am, of course, super suspicious here. I don't really trust what these guys are saying at this point in time, which is why I do not in any situation here stand still. But since I now realize that there is no cheating involved, I at least feel that I can move. As long as I move around, I can still be outside here. So there's some things here that I don't want to share in the video, some trash talking, some rivalry, and all of a sudden here, there's some talk about cheating as well, but I don't want to go into details as of now. At the same time, I'm trying to explain to these guys what I'm trying to do here, which is what this video is all about, and I am now going to tell you guys as well. This base is an open house. If you want to get into this base and check it out, the code to any door, any gate in this base is 6969. Come in and check it out. The server is Barnaul, and of course this is Lone Pine Development. Anyway, it's kind of weird how this video turned out after all, because basically I just made this character in order to build this base. It took me about half a day, or well, actually it was a night, but yeah, the same amount of time anyway. But I'm basically just checking out some of the new features with base building. I'm not really planning on playing H1Z1 all that much at the moment. I think the game is just far too laggy and there's too many issues. So for now, early access alpha testing is something that I really need a break from. I do have over 1,000 hours into this game already, and it's really interesting to see in what direction the game is going, to see all the new content and all that. Unfortunately, when it comes to just playing and enjoying the game, the negative things about testing a game that isn't finished has overweighed the positive and interesting things. And it's not like I'm ranting or complaining about it, it's just that for me I need a break, at least for the time being. And here you can see one of these problems, and obviously by now it's quite clear what kind of impact it can have to your gameplay experience. And obviously if it wasn't for this specific bug, the fact that I can't set up a couple of walls, this video would look very different. And I had this problem on a lot of these other corners here, but the way I did it is that I blocked it instead with shelters, the regular ones or the smaller ones. You can see it for yourself if you decide to check out the base. But it's really strange how I cannot set up a wall, but I can set up a shelter basically at the same place where the wall would be. Now, as you all know, I've been playing this game on low, and when I first started building this base, I had my settings on low as well. I only changed it later for the sake of this video. But now the optimization has become so bad with the new content that it doesn't even help to change your settings to low. I still have these insanely low frame rates, and if I'm crafting, it's just unplayable. If I've crafted a couple of walls or some such, I wouldn't even dare leaving the base without resetting my client. I mean, it's dropping to like 30 or even below 30. This is not a very high pop server. I'm far from Pleasant Valley, and I never even play for an hour without restarting my client. I also want to show you real quick here what it looks like when you attach an expansion to your deck foundation. Here I'm also on low graphic settings, by the way. I haven't changed yet. Anyway, this is the last expansion that I attach, and I think this was implemented really well, and it makes base building a lot better. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video, but before I end, I just want to show you how beautiful this game can look on Ultra, and I will show you the sunset here. Unfortunately, due to the downgrades of YouTube, this might be a complete letdown for you guys because of pixelation and the crappy quality. I don't know why they did that shit. Anyway, thank you all for watching.